Welcome to Philly Tech Connect podcast, where Philly's tech minds meet. CEOs, developers, dreamers. This is your space. Each week, we explore the journeys of tech innovators. Join us and be inspired.
Hey everyone, Dave here with another episode of the Philly Tech Connect podcast. Today I'm speaking with Simone, an engineer, business owner, and the founder of QuneUp, a company that helps manufacturing companies in the biopharmaceutical manufacturing space reduce equipment downtime and boost equipment productivity. Simone, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is a cool product and a cool space that I didn't know all that much about, but when I was looking at the website and watching the explainer video and everything, it made perfect sense. So tell us a little bit about your background and how it led into this idea.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on this podcast. So background-wise, I'm an engineer by training, bachelor's in chemical engineering, master's in biomedical engineering. Prior to moving into the pharmaceutical manufacturing space, I worked in the chemicals and oil and gas industry. And then once I got my master's degree, switched over to the pharmaceutical space. So instead of working on equipment that go boom, you've heard about the BP spills and those things in Texas. Here are the products that we make. You actually ingest their injectables, their pills, their drug therapies. So there, the engineering is a lot more. I want to say higher stakes because it's going into an actual human, into a patient. But as an engineer, it's equipment. At the end of the day, it's still equipment. And what was happening, and I was surprised when I switched industries, nothing ever broke down between 9 to 5. It was always midnight, Friday, Sunday morning, like off hours. And then I would run to the site. And then when I got there, I was like, where's the information? Who is the manufacturer? What is the model number? When was the last time we calibrated this piece of equipment? Does anybody know what the SOP is? Is the SOP updated? And I'm like, there has to be an easier way to get that information because we would spend hours, I am not exaggerating, hours trying to chat on that information. And so I had the idea during the pandemic, like how we use a QR code to go to a LinkedIn page or to a website. I want to use the same technology, but instead I'm embedding equipment information directly into that QR code, hence the name QuneUp. So just like you would give your car a tune-up, you take it to the dealership or to the mechanic shop, the first thing they ask you, make and model. Toyota Corolla is very different from like a Hummer, right? So I want to embed that information into QuneUp, and then using that information, you can get information that you need to start troubleshooting that piece of equipment, sending it over to procurement, getting maintenance on board, getting production back up and running, and get your production back up and running. So that was definitely the stress behind coming up with this product.
Super cool. I love the idea. I've never been in this situation. Like, it's not my background, but I immediately get it. It makes a lot of sense. So is the idea that the client, your customer, would embed that information in the QR codes, or are you accessing as QuneUp some type of global database that it is pulling from?
A little bit of both. A lot of that data exists. It's just floating in space. It's not in any one location. A lot of times engineering and procurement and maintenance in these larger companies are very siloed. So the information from an engineering perspective, you need to see the whole picture before you can even start to make an assessment of the equipment. Just like you walk into the ER, they get your blood pressure, height, weight, your basics, right? So that information is there. It's just not in an accessible format, or it's easily accessible. A lot of times the software, the SaaS that is built is very catered towards office workers and people with the luxury of time. On the production floor, you don't have that luxury. It's down, it's leaking, something's happening right now. I need that information right now. What do we do? And so the front end definitely is a QR code. You access it. On the back end is what you call ERP, like an enterprise resource planning, global asset management software, where you can see from a management perspective the entire floor. Or if you have multiple facilities, you can see all of your facilities in the Northeast region or on a national scale or global scale. And it gives you access to different levels of that equipment from different levels going up the food chain.
Very cool. So I get the idea. It makes sense. And your background feels like it fits, perfectly for it, but it's still like a big leap to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this business. I'm going to build or have the technology built for me. Did you have entrepreneurial experience, or was this kind of a big leap, and how did you take it?
It a big leap. I started a company officially in last year, but I've been mulling over different ways to make my life easier, excel on the production floor. But COVID was that defining moment for me where the whole world was crashing and burning. Everything was upside down. What was normal wasn't normal anymore. You couldn't see anybody 6 feet. So everything, all your social interactions, everything was minimized. And so the communication that you need, the interactions that you need just weren't there. But the equipment still has to be running. You still have to meet your animal production goals. The FDA is still breathing down your neck. You still have to meet compliance. We actually saw coming out of the pandemic that we had that baby formula shortage because the FDA still said, even though it was a shortage, you don't meet certain criteria, we're shutting you down. So those pressures were still there. The world was upside down. So entrepreneurship is hard, but going through COVID was a little bit harder. And so I took that leap because I just wanted to have a solution for the newer engineers coming out who had this basically 2 years of disruptions, right? 2 years of no in-person labs or in-person internships. And then on the higher end of that, you had your older, more seasoned, your veterans in the space who were unfortunately passed away or forced to retire. So you have this perfect storm of that knowledge gap, that tribal knowledge that disappeared during COVID. And so it wasn't just about putting yet another tool out into the ecosystem. It was really about helping the new engineers coming out with a support system. Here's one tool you can access and get that information, and also drawing on that decades of knowledge from the more seasoned engineers and operators as well into one product.
Nice. Has anything surprised you so far about the journey in running this company over, I believe it was 2022 or so, over the last couple of years?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, we're on the East Coast. I'm based in Philadelphia, but what happens on the West Coast trickled over sideways over to the East Coast. The SVB bank collapsing, the inflation, and so a lot of the gains that we saw coming out of the pandemic just evaporated overnight. It felt so. I felt that hampered a little bit some of the crazy growth and the spurts and the $1 million exits in 2 years, like the craziness we saw leading up to 2020 to even 2021. So I think what I was hearing when I was first making my decision, should I do it, should I not, changed in the middle of me making that decision. And so I made a decision and already decided to quit my job. So I don't have to pay bills. All right, so I'll be transparent here. I do offer technical writing services. I'm one of those weird engineers that likes to write and communicate. So that's what's paying my bills while I kind of get QuneUp started and off the ground. But the entire ecosystem, the entire journey, the whole exit strategy, VC, not VC, the entire ecosystem has changed and morphed so much in a year, 2 years that I don't even know what's normal anymore for progress in the SaaS development world.
Yeah, almost a little bit maybe like having the rug pulled out from under you while you're in the middle of, running. Yeah. That makes, yeah. With respect to the product, what is next? It feels like a solution that kind of, I don't want to say it feels complete. It just kind of feels, okay, I feel like this solves a problem. Where is there a long-term vision about where this would go? What types of things might you be looking to add to it in the future?
Yeah, for sure. So right now is really looking at partnerships. So I'm at Pennovation Works right now. I was able to start doing one of my first pilots here. What I'm realizing every time people say business and startup, it's really down to relationships and connections. To piggyback on your first question, it wasn't just about getting an LLC or a C Corp and paperwork together. It was about connecting to the people with the resources, legal, accounting, getting all of that down, as well as just the technical components of making the software. So that was a really big surprise for me, just how much has to happen in the business of the business. But moving forward, it's really about strategic partnerships, being seen as a thought leader in the space. I'm really active on LinkedIn, making sure QuneUp is on the top of mind. Because again, I'm a B2B SaaS platform. So people aren't buying this every day. I don't anticipate that. So making sure my expectations of that buying cycle, learning what that buying cycle looks like. I've been on the other side where, you buy $1 million piece of equipment once a year, once every 10 years, you expect it to last. So if you have software that's running on top of that $1 million piece of equipment, it has to be perfect. It has to be precise. You can't allow breakdowns. Using my perspective and my background as an engineer to inform how I do business, how I do marketing, how I do sales, how we land pilots and then using that data to land additional paid partnerships and pilots has been quite a journey. I am definitely learning. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Yeah, just taking all of that in stride.
Did you think about, are you working on this primarily yourself? Did you think about bringing in a co-founder or look for somebody, or how do you envision the team growing?
Yeah, for sure. So it was me in the beginning when I first started. I did bring a co-founder in. So I'm an engineer, just ones and zeros, just hardcore. I'm not a like I said, I'm a chemical engineer by training. I'm not a software developer. So I did partner with somebody to help develop the coding and the back end. However, I don't know to say this out loud, but my limitations, of course, is marketing and business. It's not my background. I've had to learn. There were a lot of really good accelerators here, especially the one provided by the city of Philadelphia. There was a partnership there with the Enterprise Center that I did, the different Chamber of Commerces that provide different tools to sort of close that knowledge gap for me as a business owner without a business or MBA background. So I did try to bring somebody on who, she had a STEM background, but had gone the leadership route as far as executive leadership. And I really wanted that sort of expertise to balance with my very technical ones and zeros perspective. It didn't really work out as planned. I think I was very much startup mode. So our language, our strategy, how we approach people is very different. I'm not selling Microsoft, not yet. So our approach is very different. And I think she was just used to being a big decision maker. So that also was a learning experience. Just when it looks good on paper, it doesn't necessarily mean in practice or in person, it actually will pan out. So I'm just down to having a system around me through contractors and different partnerships as far as legal, accounting, software development, marketing, email campaigns. I do a lot of things on my own, bootstrapping. It is what it is. The market has shifted so much. It's the expectation, and I feel like the expectation for that initial funding has become higher and higher every time you read the news. It used to be so much ARR. No, it's, I don't know, millions. And so that also has changed my long-term projections of how long I would have to work before I can even start to have those kind of conversations.
Yeah, software is, it's a long grind.
Yeah.
Especially bootstrapping.
Sure.
Yeah, and I know that firsthand. Thanks so much for Simone for giving us, the 411 on QuneUp and what you've been up to. For people that want to get in touch with you, learn more about the product and the biz, how should they do?
So visit us at QuneUp.com. So it's spelled just like tune up, but with a Q. And our handle, we're only on YouTube right now, is at QuneUp. And then we're also on LinkedIn as well. And the handle there is at QuneUp as well. We'd love to get your feedback, talk to you. Even if you're another fellow founder, entrepreneur, I love to pick your brain and just see how you got from 0 to 1 to 100. And of course, future clients and collaborators as well.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
That's all for today's episode of Philly Tech Connect. Join our community at phillytechentrepreneurs.com. Special thanks to our sponsor, shortlist.io, a digital marketing agency specializing in top-notch link building, content strategy, and web design. Stay innovative, Philly, and see you next time on Philly Tech Connect.